What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Open Great League for the brand new season, Season 23, and we're going to be looking at DEDENNE and Shadow GLIGAR. These two both got buffed in this current season. GLIGAR is now has access to a Psywave clone in Fury Cutter. It already had Fury Cutter, but now it just got buffed in the damage. And then DEDENNE got a huge buff with Parabolic Charge. It now costs less energy and it has a guaranteed chance to boost your attack, your defense. So actually makes DEDENNE quite bulky, and this thing was absolutely insane. I know other content creators have kind of already showcased this thing, but it deserves all the hype that it's getting. It is nuts. Also having that bug resist with the fairy typing is really nice. So without further ado, let's hop into some battles. Of course, DEDENNE only has two weaknesses, ground and poison, and in the first match, picking up a bit of a difficult lead, so I safe switch into my Dusclops. They're going to fire off energy. I can let this go. It should just be the discharge. No, my opponent goes for a cross poison for some reason. But as you'll notice, I'm actually running double elemental punches on my Dusclops, and that's because there are so many bug types just lurking in the Open Great League right now that I felt like I needed this Fire Punch coverage, and I didn't really want to give up the Ice Punch coverage. My opponent commits both shields on the Fire Punches. These are early games, so some of the plays by my opponents will be a little bit questionable. That said, we do have a super effective Fire Punch coverage that still doesn't even do 50%, so at this point I will just let this go, and then I will get an energy lead on GLIGAR because we have a 2 shield advantage, and all it's going to take is 1 dig to knock out. These Thunderfangs are still resisted because it's double resisted on ground and single super effective on flying, so that is a net single resisted. I'm going to overharm quite a bit here, now going for the dig at the very last moment, picking up the knockout on the Steelix. And what is that Pokemon in the back? Do they want to show me? No, they're going to come back in with Galvantula. I know they're on their 2 cycle for cross poison, so I'm going to go for another dig, and that picks up the knockout. And what is in the back? It is a Gyarados, and flipping switch was absolutely huge in this matchup because now we can switch into DEDENNE, get off the Parabolic Charge, and Parabolic Charge easily one-shots the Gyarados. We're able to take that win. But yeah, GLIGAR resists both poison and ground on DEDENNE, and then Dusclops just resists the poison, and then we have super effective ground coverage with Ice Punch. Both Pokemon obviously don't want to see water in the back because of the coverage moves running on Dusclops and the typing of GLIGAR, but DEDENNE can deal with those. That said, in the next match we have a Dragonair on the lead, and my opponent just wants to play out this matchup even though their Dragon Breaths are double resisted. I could have gone for a Parabolic Charge bait, but I did not feel like it, so I full sent, grabbed the shield, and then they come in with a Lapras, so clearly core broken by the DEDENNE, but here comes a second Parabolic Charge their way. We've already grabbed 2 shields, so now I can just come in with my Dusclops. Fortunately for me, they're not a mono water type, so I'll be able to pick up the knockout with a Fire Punch here. They do go for their harder hitting Ice Beam, knowing they're only going to make it to 1 move. Here comes the Fire Punch. Fire Punch will pick up the knockout on the Lapras, and then they're going to actually get to come back in with their Dragonair. Now, they might not be expecting the Ice Punch because they've seen the Fire Punch, but here comes the Ice Punch. It actually doesn't quite knock out. My opponent is able to get to a charge move, which will pick up the knockout on the Dusclops, but now that means I can get an energy lead on my GLIGAR, and it is a Raichu in the back, which is huge because I can just go for a dig. Happens to be on good timing, and dig from this range picks up the knockout on the Raichu. We can Fury Cutter down the Dragonair, and just like that, we're able to take that win. GLIGAR in the lead in the next match. This is a tough lead, so we're going to safe switch into our Dusclops, and our opponent is staying in. They end up throwing their charge move on the CMP with the Ice Punch, denying my energy. But this will end up landing unless they commit a shield, and Aerial Ace is pretty non-threatening from the GLIGAR. So we do actually grab a shield here. They will be able to outpace. As you can see, it is only 10 turns versus the 12 and then 9, so just slightly higher. They then come in with a Jellicent, which is pretty unfortunate because I am not running Shadow Punch on my Dusclops. But we're still able to grab a shield because we farmed up like we had the Poltergeist. And now I can just come in with my Dedenne. I will shield up the first move. It is the Shadow Ball. They full send it there, which is nice because now I can get off this parabolic charge. That's super effective damage that boosts our defense, so we can definitely live this charge move. It should just be the Surf, and it is just the Surf, and look how little that does to the Dedenne. They're going to come back in with the Gligar. Can I make it to a play rough? I can. And of course, Aerial Ace is resisted here, so they're going to be forced to go for a dig in order to pick up the knockout. But I actually have an Ice Punch loaded on my Dusclops from earlier, so I'm going to snipe with the Dusclops, render that energy completely useless, and it is a Carbink in the back. Fire Punch is resisted here, so going for the neutral Ice Punch, and that'll do some little bit of chip, I guess, to the Carbink. But now we have the alignment that we need. We can come in with our Gligar. We can live any one charge move here, and Moonblast will get shielded just out of caution. Here comes the dig. It actually still won't be enough to knock out, but as soon as that connects, we know we can outpace with the Dedenne. So we switch into the Dedenne, get to the parabolic charge, and from that range it picks up the knockout, and we're able to take that win. I don't know why I can't say Dedenne when I'm like shoutcasting or whatever. But anyways, good lead. In the next match, we've got a Primeape. They will outpace us here to the Rage Fist, but every single time they boost their attack, we boost our defense. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to farm up to the Play Rough, now baiting with the Parabolic Charge. It's not so much a bait because Parabolic Charge would still be pretty threatening to my opponent. Here comes a second Rage Fist after committing the shield. I'm going to farm back up to the Play Rough, now going for another Parabolic Charge. And Parabolic Charge will grab another shield from my opponent, but I guess if they want to play out the twos, they can lose the twos if they really want to. Because at this point, they're definitely in Parabolic Charge range. I can overfarm just a little bit. Now going to connect with the Parabolic Charge. From this range, it's going to pick up the knockout, and we are like 4 times boosted at this point, or maybe 3 times boosted, so we are extremely bulky at this point. But unfortunately, they do come in with a Diggersby. I safe switch into my Gligar, and we bait out a Toxapex. This is pretty nice to bait out because we can connect with a dig, and even if they get to 1 charge move here, it's not going to be enough to knock out. They are going to fire off the Brine. Brine is a terrible move, so we will live this even as the Shadow Gligar, no problem. And as much as I would like to get energy on my other Pokemon, we are already way over a dig's worth of energy, so I may as well just pick up the knockout onto the Toxapex and then connect with a potential Aerial Ace or another dig on the Diggersby. And as soon as this connects, they should be in maybe, what, double Ice Punch range, hopefully. It is super effective. Obviously, Dusclops hits like a wet noodle, but Scorching Sands also does very little damage, and they do not get the attack debuff, which is nice, because now Ice Punch should, I'm hoping, be able to 2-shot from this range. It's going to be close. We're going to have to hope these hexes add up enough in order to put them in range. Second Scorching Sands connects. Once again, not getting the attack debuff, so this Ice Punch should be enough to pick up the knockout, and even if it wasn't, we still had Gligar and Dedenne in the back, so we're able to take that win. Okay, picking up another tough lead, Gligar, gonna do the same thing, safe switch into our Dusclops, and I'm overpowering this time in case my opponent tried to throw on the CMP tie like the last one did, but they do not. This one just connects with an Ice Punch, and then they come in with a Golisopod, and obviously Golisopod here is running Fury Cutter, so having that stab like Psywave clone damage is nice, except when it's against a ghost. And fortunately we do have Fire Punch here, which is neutral damage. It is risky to safe switch a Dusclops into a Gligar because most Gligars are paired with the like water types in the back, and if it was a mono water type, we would be screwed. But I'm able to bait out a Gastrodon, and I can connect with a Play Rough here. Play Rough does some solid damage, and that looks like it'll put us in a pretty decent position with the Gligar, because Mudslaps are double resisted here, and we have an Ice Punch banked still on our Dusclops that we used to sacrifice our Dedenne by saving that switch. In comes 2 Body Slams from my opponent. Can I get the full Fury Cutter farm down? Looks like not quite. So I'm going to have to connect with an Aerial Ace in order to pick up the knockout. And my opponent actually commits a shield to save that energy, and then they come in with Glisspot only to get Fury Cutter farm down, and now they finally come in with their Gligar. All I have to do is grab a shield from my opponent. So there's one Aerial Ace. Here comes a second Aerial Ace. I need them to shield one of these up. I do have 2 shields, so I can try. Oh, there, never mind. They shielded it up. In comes the snipe of the Dusclops. We have the Ice Punch loaded. My opponent needed to let that go. That connects. Can we get the Hex farm down? We can. And just like that, we're able to take the win. Okay, into the next match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Medicham. They are on Psycho Cut, so that'll make this matchup a little bit closer here. But I want to at least bluff like I am going to go for the play rough. I'm not too worried about Ice Punches here, or Dynamic Punches, especially because that's resisted. I do end up over farming and going for a play rough, but my opponent makes a really nice catch onto their Grumpig. But Grumpig, unfortunately, is old news. They're going to get Fury Cutter farm down. These are Shadow Fury Cutters, not even Stab, and yet they're doing huge damage. We can take the Shadow Ball, no problem, and leave loaded with energy. My opponent did not want to take a super effective Shadow Stab Aerial Ace on their Medicham, so they're going to come in with a Dugong instead and get an energy lead. I decide I've got my Dusclops for the Medicham, so I'm going to come in with my Dedenne, and then it looks like I started to lag out, and then my opponent somehow also lagged out, but then came back as well. I have no idea what was going on there. Very laggy, but we're able to connect with a Parabolic Charge, and now this is pretty much in Hex farm down range, and I can let all of these Ice Punches go because they're neutral, they're non-stab, they don't do that much damage, and they obviously can't go for a Dynamic Punch here because that is double resisted, so just committing to the full farm down, leaving our shields for Dedenne in case we need them. Second one connects, in comes the Dugong. Dugong now will be met with a Fire Punch. This is neutral damage because it is super effective on the ice and resistant on water. But if I can grab a second shield, I have a Parabolic Charge loaded, and that's exactly what happens. Parabolic Charge now with the Snipe, gonna connect onto this Dugong, and we will be able to take that win with 2 shields remaining after Thundershocking the Medicham down. Okay. Tough lead in the next match, Drapion, so we're going to safe switch into our Gligar, and it turns out this is a Bite Drapion, so actually safe switching was not the right play there, and I go for a Dig Bait. My opponent calls it, so everything going wrong in this matchup, but fortunately Bite is a terrible fast move. It does not generate energy well, so I am able to get to 2 Aerial Aces before they even throw an Aqua Tail. Or I crunch for that matter, maybe fishing for the debuff, but that is now only 20%. And then they come in with a Gligar a Clodsire of all things, which is absolutely insanity because it is walled by the Gligar. I am able to connect with a Dig and then catch the Sludge Bomb onto my Dusclops where it is resisted. I mean, it's resisted on Gligar too, but from that range it probably would be enough to KO. I'm now going to overfarm here, go for the Ice Punch, and from this range it picks up the knockout on the Clodsire. Are they going to come back in with the Bite Drapion? Of course they are. Look at these stab bites absolutely tearing through Dusclops' health. Unfortunately, Dusclops is very bulky. It can overfarm, get to another charge move against their last Pokemon, which happens to be a Skeledirge, which is pretty unfortunate because our charge moves are completely walled on fire types as well. But maybe my opponent thought I was baiting it, and I actually have Poltergeist, so they end up throwing their energy. Now I can come in with my Dedenne. I can overfarm here. All I have to do is get to 2 Parabolic Charges before they get to another charge move, basically. And it looks like I will be able to get there because I'm only 2 Thundershocks away. They're 1 Incinerate away from the charge move, so I'm able to outpace and Parabolic Charge from this range. Picks up the knockout on the Skeledirge, and we're able to take that win. Into the next match, we have Dedenne into Lucario. Now this kind of depends on what fast move they're running because they do have access to Bullet Punch, which did get buffed to a Sucker Punch clone this season, but my opponent is running Force Bomb. So I will respect the first charge move because I know I can boost my defense here. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to shield up the first, now connecting with the Parabolic Charge, expecting to get that shield back. And I overfarm a little bit because I know I can survive this move now. It should just be a Blaze Kick. That doesn't do that much damage, and now I'm basically at back-to-back, so if my opponent really can't shield this without double shielding if they want switch. So they do just let that go. Well, they already used the shield, so they can't. They end up coming in with a Magical Leaf Victory Bell, so not even on Acid, which is a Shadow Claw clone this season. But they do connect with Leaf Blade. That does huge damage, and they have an Umbreon in the back. So this is terrible news. I'm going for the Aerial Ace because I need to make it to an Aerial Ace plus a Dig. And because of that, my opponent actually ends up throwing their energy right away. And I think because Snarl is resisted on my Dedenne, even though I'm extremely low, I should be able to make it to a couple charge moves here. So I'm going to overfarm here. Snarl does absolutely no damage already, and now it's resisted. So that allows me to get to a Play Rough. My opponent committing to the farm down, but we make it to another Play Rough in time. The absolute clutch Dedenne, making it to the Play Rough, KOing the Umbreon. Now I can come in with my Dusclops against their Victory Bell. We have two super effective charge moves, so my opponent just resigns the match. Great lead in the next match. Dedenne into Altaria. Their Dragon Breaths are double resisted. I mean, you wouldn't know it based on the health of both of our Pokemon because they're somehow doing more damage to me. However, I do connect with the Play Rough, and I could let the Moonblast go. I think I decide I do let it go, and they end up baiting with a Sky Attack, only to come in with a Credilli, and I decide to come in with my Dusclops because they can't hit me too hard. Obviously, we're pretty neutral here. It will not two-shot those Rock Tombs, and I have super effective Ice Punch. I do have super effective Fury Cutter on Gligar and neutral Aerial Ace and Dig. It doesn't really matter. It's more of a team read. I'm thinking, okay, you're already double weak to Ice, so I'm going to come in with my Ice Pokemon for your Credilli because I've already seen your Altaria. There's no way you're triple weak to Ice, so that's the win con that I'm playing to right now. I will be able to connect with two Ice Punches here, and now I switch into my Dedenne and I snipe with a Parabolic Charge because they're in Parabolic Charge range, and that means I can grab a shield from my opponent. At this point, I am more than comfortable letting this go and getting an energy lead on my Gligar because we've basically neutralized that Altaria, but they have a Magcargo in the back. Now this could get a little bit tricky because Rock Tomb is neutral damage, and it does lower our attack. However, Dig is double super effective, and I see no reason to bait here. So I'm full sending the Dig. I'm expecting my opponent to overfarm here by 1 Incinerate, so I'm going to throw 4 Fury Cutters, 5 Fury Cutters, catch the Rock Tomb onto my Dusclops, which also resets the debuff on my Gligar. So now I'm fully at my normal damage. Dig picks up the knockout onto the Magcargo, and I'm going to Fury Cutter farm down the Altaria, leave with an Aerial Ace loaded for the Credilli, and Shadow Gligar, putting on a clinic in this game. Into the next match, we've got Dedenne into Fortress. This is actually a great matchup to see because Fortress, obviously, the Shadow, it hits like a truck with the buffed Bug Bite. However, Bug Bite is resisted here, and we can constantly buff our defense here. My opponent also, because they're running the Shadow, is likely on Sand Tomb rather than Earthquake, so I'm comfortable just letting this go. It is the Rock Tomb. They didn't even farm up to the Earthquake. Now I'm going to go for a second Parabolic Charge because I saw how much damage, or I grabbed a shield with the first one, and I want to land some damage. I end up safe switching into my Gligar only to be met with a Samurott. Now Samurott is a bit of a tricky Pokemon, obviously for the Gligar, and unless I want to commit both shields, I can't win switch because they will be able to outpace. They end up baiting with a Razor Shell. Can I make it to a Dig? I can. That is absolutely huge. Didn't even go for the Hydro Cannon. That's going to cost them. Here comes a Dig. Still doesn't pick up the knockout. Samurott got some decent bulk to it, I guess, in the non-Shadow form. Second Razor Shell does pick up the knockout. I can now come in with my Dusclops, get a nice energy lead without taking too much damage because Fury Cutters are resisted. And what do they have in the back? They have a Clodsire. So this game is won. Ice Punch, super effective damage. Poison Stings and Sludge Bombs are resisted, so that forces them to go for the Earthquake here. They don't even farm up to it, maybe hoping I had lost track of their count, but I hadn't. Sludge Bomb is resisted. I'm going to let that go. Trainer, you need to full send your Earthquake in order to do any meaningful damage against my Dusclops, or this game is cooked. I mean, this game is already cooked. They're down 2 shields with their Clodsire aligned to my Dusclops, and then I make a cheeky catch just for no reason. It ends up being a Stone Edge instead, so my opponent running a very odd move set. but they end up coming back in with the Fortress. They can debuff my attack or my defense with a Sand Tomb, and now I'm going to be able to connect with a Fire Punch. Fire Punch, double super effective damage, definitely going to pick up the knockout there, and now it's a race, Hex versus Poison Sting, and we are able to take that win. So yeah, that is the Dedenne Gligar core in the Open Great League. Obviously, these games are a little bit strange because we've got some opponents who are legends and have legend poses that I'm battling in my first few battles, and then others who are running 1300 C. Actually, you know what? I didn't see any of those. I haven't gotten a single battle, I think, where my opponent had super underleveled Pokemon yet. So that's exciting. I don't know if that's just because my ELO bracket was near leaderboard ELO at the end of the last season or what, but yeah, the core between Dedenne and Gligar was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And then Dusclops, I think it has a lot of potential with any moveset, really. I'm excited to see where the meta shifts and what the optimal moveset will be. I don't think this is the optimal moveset. I just kind of wanted to surprise my opponents with the double elemental punches. But yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.